All right. Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Today I have Devan Robinson as we continue to celebrate and highlight military spouse entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking about her specific enterprise, which is developing with Devan, and a couple of other interesting things as you can see in the ticker below. If you're joining us on either of the platforms, please let us know where from. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Parade Deck, Facebook. So you have plenty of opportunity to join us there. Just let us know where you're at and how your Aloha Friday is going. Devan, welcome to Aloha Friday Live. So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, we're taking out this time to highlight military spouses because as a military member, I do realize that there are a whole lot of challenges that we as active duty do not have to deal with when it comes to things like transitioning from one place to another, acclimating to a new environment, because most of the things that we come into are basically cookie cutter. Right now, the people are different, but a command is a command, a command structure is a command structure, policies are policies, and we kind of fit in very easily, especially as you get higher in the ranks. It becomes easy just to come in and just take over and do your thing, but not so for the military family, right? You got new schools, you have new work, you have no work sometimes, right? And so I do know that that transition is not the same, uh, but I really value the military spouse that goes on her own, right? Or his own, right? And creates for themselves an ecosystem that they can thrive in regardless of where they're going. And that's why we have you today. You're the founder of Developing with Devan, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to share some of that, about you, and some of that.
Sure. Thank you. So, my name is Devan Robinson, and I am the founder of Developing with Devan. And obviously, I named it after myself. And the mission of my 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 organization, my business, whatever word you want to call it, is to create a world filled with unapologetically successful women. And when I talk about that, the reason the reason that that is my mission is from personal experience and seeing the military spouses around me, seeing the coworkers I've had at my previous jobs, and seeing how society and social conditioning has taught women to be less than they are. And so that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get us to be bold and not be humble and not be in the background, to show up fully as ourselves and not be ashamed and not be apologizing about it. And so that is my mission, my vision, my goal. And so that's why I started my business a couple years ago. And I'm just full in on that. But personally, so some of the things about me: I'm a military spouse, obviously, that we just said that. My husband's been in the military about 10 years, and in we are up in the north. We are in New York, and it's been a whirlwind up here, and lots of winters that we've had to have up here. But we love it up here. I have 3 children. That is a new endeavor. I was bestowed 3 children a year ago. If you are curious about how someone is bestowed 3 children, we can talk about that. And feel free to chat with me outside of this. I can't go into a lot of details. But that has been a big change in my life. And I also have 2 dogs and 2 cats and a lot of plants and a couple fish that are still surviving. And that's my circle of things I have to care for. And then I also do a lot of stuff within the community and within the military spouse entrepreneur community. I'm a part of the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs. I am a part of the Women Business Opportunity Connections down here, or up here. It's not down here, up here in New York. And I do a lot of things with the chamber as well. And one of the big things that I started a couple years ago, actually at the end of 2021, was I started hosting my own women's summit. So, a conference for women by women, and it's happening every year. I'm actually in the throes of all of that right now, where I get to bring in different subject matter experts, local or out of state, to come in to teach women. This year's theme is to take up space and to be unapologetically ourselves and know who we are, what we want, and what's stopping us. And at this summit, we get to take all those pieces, learn about them, and then be able to walk away with new connections, new resources, all the tools you need in order to get to where you want to be and get through those obstacles that are in your way. So, those are a bit of the things I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting in on the chat there. You said take your space, and my head started going. Take your space, take your chair, take your table, create your door, whatever that looks like, because it's inspiring. Well, first of all, this is the first I heard of a summit that you're heading, and so I'm happy to hear that. We do need an ecosystem that will allow our military spouses and of both genders to flourish, right? To
Hmm.
flourish, because like I mentioned earlier, I get to witness, and as a senior enlisted leader, as an enlisted going up, but mainly as a senior enlisted leader, I saw the impacts, the lifelong impacts of service on family, on service on a spouse. It's a totally different ball of wax of service. Now, we could not, as active duty, do what we do without having some type of certainty, assurance that back home things are being taken care of, both from the household perspective, but mainly from the command support perspective. And sometimes those two do not talk, right? Sometimes they don't talk. And then it makes it harder for a service member to be out there doing God's work, as we call it, and being able to fully be involved in the mission when we have things awry back home, right? And so it's a small consolation to say thank you for the roles that uh you hold and the things that you do. And yes, the and there's a couple of comments here. Adriana, thank you for being with us. Jacobo also joining in. Yaro, I see you in the chat. Thank you so much, and aloha Friday to you. Yeah, because both serve, right? As she knows, she's a veteran, so she understands that as well. And then Yaro says, "Hey, powerful work, Devin. Thank you for what you're doing." And so yeah, thank you for the role you play in the life of a service member, because I know that on top of all that you have to do internally for yourself, now you have things thrown at you, right? You mentioned this new life change with having three children all at once. I won't bring that in too far, but I do know that having six myself, three and spread out, three at one shot. I don't know how that's how that would have worked.
It
But
has been interesting, I will tell you.
but definitely, and I believe that God throws at us things that we're fully capable of doing, and especially when you talk about children, things that only you could do, right? And so thank you for that, and I really appreciate it. So let's talk about developing with Devin. Your what made you come to the conclusion that this is the thing that I'm going to invest my life into?
I think so. It was a very personal journey. It was a very personal journey to start this business. I was working in my dream job, at least what I thought was my dream job, and it turned out it wasn't my dream job. It was filled with toxic leadership, and
Mm,
I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, people don't leave good jobs, they or bad jobs, they leave bad leadership, right? So that is kind of what happened to me, and I ended up leaving the role because I just recognized that the position and the leaders were making me small. They were holding me back and telling me and making me into someone I wasn't, and I did not want to be that person anymore. So I put in my 2-week notice. I was kind and did that and left the role as quickly as I could and went overseas to visit my husband, actually, because he was in Korea at the time. And this was right at the start of COVID. So COVID hadn't shut everything down yet. So I had been able to make it to Korea. And as soon a week in to when I got to Korea is when everything hit the fan, right? So that is when I was just kind of like wallowing in, okay, what do I do now? What do I do? I left the job that I had been working so hard to get into. This is where I had thought I wanted to end up. I wanted to be a college professor. I wanted to teach adults. I wanted to make a difference in that avenue. And then while I was stuck in Korea for a couple months, enjoying myself with my husband as best as we could with everything closed down, I realized that I could still do that. I could still teach adults and help them get the best out of life. And so I started researching, I started figuring out what path that could be. So it turns out life coaching was that path for me. So I already have my bachelor's degree in communication. I had a master's degree in organizational performance, and I had 10 years of experience as a coordinator in helping adults and children work through the skills that they needed in order to get to their next steps. So I decided to go down the life coaching avenue because it kind of connected for me. It connected what I wanted. And ended up doing a 1-year program where I got accredited and certified in life coaching through the International Coaching Federation, which follows a very specific set of ethics and code of conduct, which I love. And so that is how I got to where I am now, to where I could start my business and feel fully confident in my skill set because I had my background, my educational background, and this new certification and accreditation, and also my professional experience and personal experience. So and that is that is how I got to starting my business. I think I answered your question. I'm not. I kind of
yeah, yeah,
like
no, no.
when
I'm so kind of like Yato. She says, wow, so glad you made it. And anybody that has had an experience, and I put that in there, have you seen or have you been impacted by toxic leadership? Devin, I'll tell you, and if you go back to the recesses of all of my videos, I've always started, and I always say, my business started in leadership when I was obviously part of a toxic leader's agenda, right? That individual had something that he needed to prove, and he used me for it. But and there's been a lot of people that have been and continue to be. And so, to Yaro's point, we try to develop non-toxic leaders so that they can get into the workforce. But you survived that. I'm sure that there were and still are some scars from that experience. And we all have to develop ourselves in that regard. But now you are certified. ICF is no joke, folks. If you ever go through their process, it's very methodical, very meticulous. They have standards. They don't waver on those things. And so once you get certified, it is a great thing to be able to celebrate. And so I celebrate that with you now, having achieved that. So,
Thank you.
self development is one thing, and if you can get to that point, bravo to all of you that are listening out there. If you can get through the self development part of our life, bravo to you. It's another thing to try to get someone else in there, into that. But you had the background, right? You had the education, you had the experience, and yeah, once you started saying that, I was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer right there. That's where you go. So what type of things have you seen in terms of the changes that you've been able to bring people through?
So, when it comes to the changes that I've worked, somehow I end up with a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs because they want to get out of this 9 to 5. There's a lot of toxic leaders out there. We've talked about this, and the one of the dilemmas that we've found is work-life balance is pretty much non-existent. And so people are trying to get back to where it's more of a blend rather than a balance. It's not one hat or the other hat, it's your life. So you're trying to blend it all together, and so you can be living, not just paying bills, right? So, one of the things that I've noticed is the women that I've worked with is perfectionism, people pleasing, and social conditioning, which stems from the patriarchy. Those are the three kinds of things that have stuck us in these boxes and made us not believe in who we are. So being able to find and go back to who we are and figure out who that is, what we want and what we actually want, not what society's telling us, not what our mother's telling us, not what our coworkers are telling us, but what we actually want, that is where the power really lies. Because once you know who you are and what you want and what's stopping you, you can get there. It's inevitable. I'm using my hands a lot. I noticed. I can see my fingers.
That's
So,
perfectly fine. I love it. I do it myself, so we're in good company.
yes. So
Well,
that is it. That's what I've kind of figured out are some main themes within the lives of women especially.
well, you mentioned too, and I'll put them up here. Right, perfectionism, people pleasing. They are some areas that a lot of us, and I'll tell you, a lot of us, including men,
Mhm.
because there's this thing of expectations, right?
Yes.
Both external, and then we kind of add to the mix and try to make ourselves more than what we are capable of doing at the time. And so
Right.
sometimes that perfectionism, and Hadassah, she goes, powerful words, Evan.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and appreciate your comment. But perfectionism truly is one of those areas that, even just by the word, you should be able to say, hold up now, I'm not perfect, so how could this be a thing, right? But it is.
Right.
It is. And
Yeah, and I was thinking, I work specifically with women most of the time, but women have one set of social conditioning things that have
mm,
happened, and men have another. Like we
mhm.
have two very different. Men are told that they need to be strong and capable and be able to solve all the problems, and women are told that they need to be humble and don't upset anybody and be more in the background. So there's these social conditionings that have happened for both sides that we're both trying to break through and know that we can be either of those, any of those things. We can choose what we want to be. It doesn't matter what society tells us. So that is what what kind of stuck out for me when you say, because I don't want it to be that women only have problems. Men have problems too. They just are a little bit different, but all fit into the social conditioning issues that happen that have just been generationally moved forward every single generation for years. And so we're trying to fight back, right? We're trying to get angry about it and do something about it and be unapologetically ourselves, so that way we can break this for the next generation, so they can work a little less hard on having to break through that. So,
Yeah, and that is truly all coach endeavors, right? We realized some things that allowed us to go into the practice that we're in because there is another way,
mhm,
and it just people can't see it, and so we try to bring them to that realization. I love the work you're doing, and entrepreneurs definitely need some some guidance in the perfectionism world, and people pleasing, because not none of those will get you good business. So now
right.
let's talk about this exorcist of negative self-talk, because I come from a faith background. And so when I see the word exorcism, I'm like, get out, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but there is an element of that demanding, of letting go, demanding of getting out and getting out of a person's way, that is true to that particular subject about negativity and negative self-talk. So tell us a little bit about that, how you came up with that combination, but where we can really gain some ground on self-talk.
Sure. So when it comes to the phrase that I use, exorcist of negative self talk, sometimes I say your friendly neighborhood exorcist, of negative self talk in parentheses. So people don't think I'm actually exorcising demons. But negative self talk is basically like a demon, right? We're trying to banish that out of our heads. It's been conditioned into us since birth. Like, it is not something we're born with. We're not born with the negativity. And the thing with negative self talk is that it can be so small. You might not even notice that you're doing it. You can say things like, oh, I'm just not lucky. And that right there is negative self talk, but you don't think you're really damaging anything, but you are, because your thoughts lead to your feelings, which lead to your actions. So if your thought is, I'm not lucky, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel bad. You're going to feel be like, oh, I'm not lucky. I'll never win anything. And so if you feel like you're never going to win anything and you feel sad about it or negative about it, then what actions are you going to take? Maybe you're not going to go buy a lottery ticket, or you're not going to put your name in the raffle, or whatever you're going to do is going to lead to you believing that thought that you put. So those small limiting beliefs that you're putting onto yourself are lies that you've learned through social conditioning or through conditioning from your family, strangers, friends, social media. And so that is why, for me, it all starts with how you talk to yourself. The power of words are it's like magic. It if you are thinking about some of the things that someone has said to you, I bet you can remember the negatives more than the positives. How many complaints do you hear versus how many compliments do you hear? And which ones do you keep in the back of your mind when you're trying to be perfect, when you're trying to people please? It's those negative ones. So I started calling myself an exorcist of negative self talk, because that is the big thing for me. That's what I had to do for myself. I used to look in the mirror and only see the bad things. And I'd be like, oh, I'd be prettier if only I didn't have this on my face, or if I could fit into this outfit, or whatever, whatever nitpicky thing I could find. And I would always talk down to myself. And then I noticed I was letting other people talk down to me. I was letting other
Mm.
people make me smaller. And so that was the path I had to take. That was what I had to get out. So I banished that demon from my body. And it's a constant work in progress. It's always trying to make sure that you're not believing those lies. And that is the big thing of why that is why I'm the exorcist of negative self-talk, because it is so important. It is a practice that you need to have daily.
Absolutely. Now, Alex came in and said, curious how a focus on individualism that is prevalent in today's world impacts the way we work through those thoughts or language.
Curious how a focus on individualism that is prevalent in today's world, uh,
Impacts. Yeah.
yeah, impacts the way we work through these thoughts or language. I guess I don't know what individualism is in this question.
Well, yeah.
You
Hey,
mean like
Alex.
being alone on our own? Like a lot of times we're we're in our space and with the social media and those things like that. The loneliness, is that what we're kind of talking about?
I don't know. Hey, brother, Alex, thank you first of all, and Jane, and everybody that is joining us today. Thank you so much for being with us. Alex, if you can throw some clarity on that, we'll definitely bring it up and talk about it.
Yeah.
But that you mentioned, this work, this inner work, right? When you talk about from the religious standpoint, an exorcist, you're trying to get to the inner person and get that other one out.
Yeah.
And self talk is like that, right? It's a way of, and you mentioned that you spoke to yourself in a way that you became comfortable with it, so comfortable that when someone externally did it, you invited and actually brought it in as well, right?
Mhm.
What you become comfortable in, folks, is what you allow. And there are some people that would say, "Hey, I'm never going to talk to myself that way, but allow somebody else," and vice versa. They'll allow someone else to talk to them that way, or they'll talk to themselves that way, but then, going outward, they won't allow it. And so, Joe, thank brother for being with us. Societal norms drive our internal reaction. It's culture, I think, and you mentioned that, right? You mentioned that we're raised, right? We're raised. Um, Yesterday, and I don't mind saying things like this. Yesterday, it was midnight. My boys are going. They're going loud, and everybody's sleeping. And I go in there. And I say, look, y'all need to shut up and go to sleep. Right? I come back to the room. My wife's like, "What'd you tell them?" I said, "Y'all need to." I tell her what I said. Why you had to say "shut up," man? You right? Because at the time that's I thought what was appropriate. But there's these things that we grow up with, and we accept them as norms, right? They're norms.
Mhm.
And there's a whole lot of other comments there. I'll throw them up here shortly.
Yeah.
But why do you think that why do you think that we get to that point where it's bad enough when you talk to yourself in this way? Uh, I think it's a little worse when you just say everybody have at it.
So the thought when as you're talking, one of the things that comes out to me is the quote that, and I'm gonna say it like as best as I can remember, but it's from the D- Don Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements, and he was talking about how we will allow other people to treat us poorly as long as they don't treat us any worse than we treat ourselves.
Mm.
So for me, that's something I keep in mind is if I'm talking crap to myself, no wonder I'm going to let other people do it, right? Because they're not treating me any worse than I'm treating myself. So that is one of the key pieces that I keep in mind when it comes to other people when I'm working with other people, when I'm talking to other people. And yeah, the Four Agreements is a wonderful, wonderful thing that I highly suggest reading. It is the I read it every year. So, but with that in mind, learning to make sure you're treating yourself the way that you want to be treated, put those boundaries in place, have those standards, so that way you can know where you're trying to go. And that falls into the knowing who you are, what you want, what's stopping you, because it is key to everything. It's key to wherever you want to go. So, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, perfectly. I'm kind of listening to you, but I'm looking at all and I really appreciate all the comments that are coming in. It reveals the source of self-limiting beliefs and robs us of our joy. Absolutely. Uh, Doc Alex, hi, ¿cómo está? She's joining us, and she's saying wow and girl. This is you know when we talk about the development of self, and we're going to get into the other areas that we mentioned earlier, but this is really a thing for all of us.
Mhm.
When you can speak to yourself, or even you allow yourself to start saying things to you, that and you internalize that, and then you become comfortable with it. um wow, what a place to be. Now I've always been an extrovert, right? And so I was always out there, being the first at this and being the first at that, and trying to, gain ground on everybody else. But even extroverts um, suffer through this
Mhm.
because extroverts tend to be people pleasers,
Mhm.
right? And so we're always in the limelight. We're always out there, but a lot of that is trying to cover up a lot of the internal hurt that we have. We just have a certain personality that allows us to be, extroverts and things like that. But we have this conversation so important. Thank you. Now, Alex did come back,
Oh,
and
good.
I will put this up there now. It's kind of long now. So,
Okay.
uh, when people are primarily concerned with their own well being and success, they may be less inclined to consider the needs and struggles of others, potentially resulting in a less caring and supportive society, especially in men may not share those thoughts with people and struggle in understanding our negative inner voice.
Wow. Okay. So I can see where you're coming from, and my thought process is it's just like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So
Mhm.
if you're not caring for yourself and filling your own cup up, how can you fill other people's cups up? Because loving yourself and trusting yourself and believing yourself doesn't mean you can't love other people, and it doesn't mean you can't trust other people or believe in other people. So I think that there is a mindset switch there that if someone loves themselves and only believes in themselves and doesn't believe in other people as well, that's a completely different conversation than just learning to believe in themselves. A lot of times, what I notice is we'll believe other people before we believe in ourselves
Mm.
because we know our intentions, we know what we're trying to do, and we know how many times we've failed in quotation marks or not done something right or tried and didn't complete it. We know those things. So we end up believing in other people before we believe in ourselves. So I'm not sure how many people I've come across that are in the only believing in themselves mindset. I don't think that's my inner circle of
Mhm.
people. I don't attract those types of people. I attract the people who are recovering from people pleasing. Doesn't necessarily mean they stop caring about people. It
Right.
just means that the opinions of other people are not as important to what they're going to end up doing for themselves. So, I don't I hope that answered that question, or at least some of my thoughts on what you were saying, Coach Alex. So, thank you.
All right. So leadership 101, right? Is serving others first. And and I truly believe that we both come Adriana and I come from the Maxwell training environment, and so we do believe that.
I'm
I
actually
also
Maxwell
believe, yeah.
certified as well. So,
Good, JMT in the house. So I also believe that there is an element where that has to be calculated, and the intentions need to be clear when you
mhm.
are serving others, because you can overserve, right? I always remember this this one thing episode, not an episode, but a clip of Office Space. If you've ever seen that movie, you may know what I'm talking about. But the guys, they're getting cake in the office, and they're giving, and they say, "Oh no, pass it down, don't be selfish." So he grabs the cake and he's passing it down, right? And the last plate to be given to him, the person that was serving took it for her, and he ended up with nothing, right? And so sometimes in that giving, you have to calculate that you don't apportion the piece that's for you, and then be left without, right? So give all you want, and I just make sure that it's apportioned right, so that you won't be left empty after giving all you've got, right? So she goes, yes, JMT in the house. And Alex responded, says, I love it, thank you. uh yeah, so now he wants the quotes. Thanks, brother. Hey, he is a book walking around. Thanks,
Love
brother.
that. Man, that's awesome. I was reading the quote that he put, it never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own.
Mm,
And it reminds me, so I was working with a client it was last month. This was a conversation last month, and we were talking about, I had asked her, what do you like about yourself? And it came back, we did some reflection. It came back and she was like, I'm having trouble with this question. And so then I spouted off a bunch of things that she's done because I know her. I've known her for years, and I was like, "What about this? What about this?" And she's like, "Oh, I forgot about that. I do like myself for this, and yada yada." And so I was like, "Well, maybe the dilemma is that I know you love yourself, but love and like are two different things. So I know if I asked her, what do you love about yourself? Do you love yourself? She would be like, absolutely, I love myself. I'm my own cheerleader. I'm amazing. But if I say, do you like yourself? She struggles. And so that quote reminded me of that is, yeah, we love ourselves, but do we like ourselves? And why are we listening to other people's opinions about ourselves instead of our own? So,
yeah, that's powerful. There's a difference between love and like, right?
mhm.
And if you have uh, family, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm, I was just thinking
You
that.
right? So and everybody has their limits, and everybody has their cup of tea. You might love someone and not like what they do, or not like how they present themselves, and there's still a baseline love, humanistic. I love every human. I just can't be around them all at one time, because you get different things at different times. So you have to know the difference. But when it comes to us, it's really important that if you love yourself on a foundational, that the pillars of like are there, because everything else is going to be predicated on how those two really come together, especially for you in terms of an individual, right? um so I think we have got the gist of self-love and like now, to the point where we can move on to this next thing, because you know, a life, right? A life is hard to kind of deconstruct and rebuild, and and there's just so many different elements. But if you, as a life coach, you say, hey, I'm on the dial, right? And I think that many of us here on this call today, or this live show today, and those that are with us, understand that our passion for helping others will will always kind of help us be on speed dial, right? If someone needs me, and I came from a background in the military where I did what was called CACO. Don't know if you understand what that is, but Casualty Assistant Call Officer, which basically was I was in I was the representative of the military to go and inform families of a deceased service member, right? So I would go with a chaplain, although I was a chaplain myself, a minister. I went with the actual chaplain, and we would make those notifications. A very hard job to do. Uh, uh, yeah, you get all kinds of things, but there are things that you're prepared for in life, and there are things you have to get prepared for in life. We don't get a book. We don't get a teacher. I wish everybody had a sponsor and a mentor right from birth. This life would be so good, right? But we don't. We don't. Um, there are things that we're never taught, and life is difficult at times. Life could be bliss, euphoric at times, and you're like, wow, I'm actually living this life. There are periods in our life that we do that, but then it comes that if you can get there, and I hope everybody does in one way, shape, or form, that you can get to a point in life where it's euphoric. You're just loving it and every minute of it, because it's too short. But we become part of community. That community is impactful, right? So you're in the realm and you're in the business of building communities. Um, how's that going? How is community building going?
It's going good. I've been working for the last couple years building a community of women who are ready to be bold and be out there and be rebellious and creative and passionate and all the things that they want to be without apologizing. I have been building this community and I love it. And the women who have stuck with me and grown with me and continue to grow with me are here for a lifetime. And I just keep adding more and more people into this community using I have an online community that we're together in. I have a Facebook group. I have my email list. I have all the different ways for you to be inside of this community. I network a lot. I go to different events and I'm just building people up. And that is what I love to do. And the biggest thing for me with that is my annual women's summit.
Mhm.
And I believe someone asked for some more details on that, which I'm happy to give now or I'm happy to give later. I'm not sure when the right time is. Do you want me
No,
to
you could
do
do
it now?
that now. You could do it
Okay,
now.
cool. So my women's summit that's coming up is going to be on September 29th to October 1st. It's in Syracuse, New York, in a hotel downtown. We start around 7 o'clock on Friday and we end around 12:30, 1 o'clock on Sunday. So it's almost 3 days, 2.5-ish days. And we are going to be talking about toxic positivity. We're going to be talking about healthy boundaries. We're going to be talking about taking up space. We're going to be talking about nutrition and the body image and all the things that are stopping us from being our full selves. And the theme is it starts with you, which I think someone said in the comments, which I was like, oh, that's perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about at my summit. I have a couple speakers, I have different workshop facilitators coming in, and we just spend time connecting and motivating and inspiring ourselves and each other. And that is my community, that's my people. They're at this event, so I am super excited about that. And if people are wanting to come, I do still have some tickets. Of course, it's only July, so I have those conversations. Actually, so someone said, yay, someone talking about toxic positivity. So the woman who's coming in to talk about that is actually a JMTer as well. So it's funny.
Outstanding.
We have this community. So but we are doing it. So I have 3 different levels of tickets. So I have the all access ticket, it's Evolve. It's called the Evolve ticket, and you get the 2 nights in the hotel, all your food, everything's included, and it's $897 for 2 people. So it's a BOGO right now. So it's $897 for that, a double room, and then 2 tickets. So it's um, 450 each for the whole weekend, which is really amazing, an amazing price. And then we have the all access pass without the rooms, so that's 597, and I'm doing BOGO for the rest of this month, so it's 597 for 2 people. And then if you wanted to do the just coming for like the basic package, I'm calling it the Explore package. And that package doesn't include a couple of the meals, and it doesn't include the hotel, but it includes everything else. And it is $397, and it's also BOGO. So I have 3 different price points, 3 different ways to do this. We have Explore, Engage, and Evolve. Those are the 3 levels. So I've kept it as at a really good price for what you're getting, and I'm super excited. So
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting thing. I tell you that let's make sure to put the at least the website landing page or wherever they can find that in the comments. And yes, that is that is awesome of how everything is set and scheduled. And I love that it is a part of the community building process that you are taking this in. Now, your community building has led you to this BAB tribe. Now, I'm not
yes.
going to say it because I don't speak like that, but you're welcome to explain what BAB tribe is and
Yes.
and let everybody know about it.
Yeah. So BAB stands for Be a Bold Ass Bitch. And it's very disruptive because it goes back to taking back the power of the words. Because I can remember the first time I was called a bitch and how that made me feel. I was in ninth grade, and how horrible I felt because my friend called me that. And so it just has stayed with me and stayed with me my whole life, being able to remember. And so it just goes back to the power of words. And so I want us to take that power back. I want us to take up space and be bold ass bitches, because it doesn't matter what other people think those words mean. What it means is that we're creative and passionate and driven and unapologetic and successful and whoever we want to be. So that's what BAB stands for.
Well, I saw it. And I said, "Well, woo, that's what I'm talking about." But
Disruptive, told ya.
well, I tell you, if you're down with Bab and you want to be Bab,
We're
this
all
is this
Babs.
is
Men, women, we can all be Babs. Everyone wants to be a Bab.
exactly. And Joe says, "Hey, I love it." Well, there's a thing about um, getting somebody, and you talk about the power words. If for those that dish it out, right? All they have to do is wait for the turn because it's coming back this way. And typically, and That's a says. Oh, that's right.
Yes, queen, you're a bab. Love it.
But but typically, you get this deposit of things, right? We've all had an opportunity from when we were born to this very day to have been a recipient of words that may have not been well intended, and just to say it downright evil about people, whether they were in their feelings or whatever it may be. The deposit, right? The deposit always has dividends, always. And the problem is that we can never account for what percentage that thing was going to come back with, right? You could get it 100% back, and you might get it 10%. It depends. Uh, but understanding the power words, understanding that it has an effect, and being able to uh, get yourself collected, right? Yeah, after a lot of work, right? You went to ICF, you did JMT. That's a lot of work, internal work, to be able to produce an external product. And when we take ownership, right, and when we start doing the hard work inside, all those words end up being fuel to what's produced. Now, someone that called you that could never have calculated that you're about to put on a 3-day convention, right? I bet that wasn't part of their
I don't
thought
I
process,
bet they
right?
don't even remember that they called me that. We're Facebook friends still, so
Look at that.
she's watching
So
what I'm
now
doing.
I want to thank all the people that thought they were walking on my back were actually giving me a massage, right? it's a, it's one of those things. We produce, and that's what I love about those that have persevered, right? Devin, you've persevered through things. You are going through things now that are molding you, that are making you stronger, that will give you a different perspective, that will ultimately produce for the world the best version of Devin that can ever be. And so, thank you for taking your own life into your hands and being able to say, I'm going to make something out of all these other people that try to make nothing out of me. I'm going to make something. So thank you. Congratulations on what you're doing, on the coaching, on the entrepreneur side, on the community building, on the babbing. And I know that this is going to be a great event. For all of you out there that would like some information, we'll make sure to have the info as a link into the comments so that you can view that. But Devin, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, wanted to talk to you, wanted to get more info, how would they do that?
Sure, they can. I mean, the easiest way is if they just want to directly one-on-one have a conversation with me, just email me. It's Devan, Devan, at developingwithdevin.com. Though that is the easiest way. I'm on Instagram a lot. I'm trying to be a good millennial and do all that stuff on the Instagram. Uh, on the Instagram. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm on there all the time and on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm on all three of those. I also have a YouTube where I do some of my own lives, and I did a season last earlier this year. So I have some more if you want to listen to more of my thoughts. It's Discussions with Devin, and it's on YouTube, so or Spotify. So either way.
Outstanding, folks. All of that will be included post this live event so that you can get a hold of that. Devin, thank you so much for what you do, what you have done, and will continue to do. Folks, we want to remind you that it's not only Aloha Friday Live, but we are on the hunt for 500 subscribers on DTLW Podcast YouTube page. So please go at DTLW Podcast on YouTube. Find us there and help us get there. I think we're about 30 something off of 500, but it's a milestone. And every milestone Triad Leadership Solutions provides a leadership book to one of those subscribers. So we are excited to be able to get that book to someone that is chosen randomly, right? And so thank you for helping us get to that goal. It has been a pleasure hosting you, Devan. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you, everyone that showed up today and supported her. We are so excited about what is coming this weekend. Be safe, folks. We want to see you back next week as we have another AMSE member doing her own thing and spotlighting them and their work. And we appreciate all of your support. Have a happy and safe weekend. Aloha Friday, everybody. Be blessed.